You know, at my funeral, I hope somebody just says he was fair. He was a good guy, he was fair to all of us, and he was never greedy in how he operated that business. I'm Mike Mountjoy. I'm now Chairman Emeritus of MCM CPAs and Advisors, the firm I was a founder of, in 1980 that's evolved into the MCM firm and on from there. I grew up there in Williamsburg, small town, southeast Kentucky. My dad was an educator, he was a coach. He started out as a football and basketball coach. My mother was an educator. She taught at the University of Cumberlands there for a while. She also was the mayor of Williamsburg. But I had a wonderful childhood. I had good friends. We played hard and did all the things kids do, and it was a good time to grow up in the 50s. My first real job was I got a paper route. A friend of mine who lived pretty close, we got 2 paper routes actually, and delivered the Courier Journal for a couple of years through a paper route, and that was kind of my first entrepreneurial venture too, to some extent, and I got a lot out of that. I understood how to bill, how to collect that 55 cents a week, I think is what we charged for the Courier Journal then. I got discipline out of that because I had to get up at 5:30 every morning and go down and pick up those newspapers and get on that bicycle, and it was really cold. And I learned from some of those experiences, and back to my experiences as paper route, I learned from that. I taught swimming lessons when I was about 14, and I worked for a man. He paid me, I think, $2 an hour to teach swimming lessons, and I'm teaching 10 little kids how to swim. Well, then a year or two later, I'm managing a pool at the country club, and I'm the manager and the lifeguard and the swim coach. So I'm now teaching these swimming lessons to about 10 of these little kids, but I'm not getting paid $2 an hour. I'm getting paid $2 an hour from each of their parents. So now I'm making $20 an hour. That was a great lesson for me. I learned the value of leverage. And I think I've carried that throughout my life. A good accountant can be a sole practitioner, but I knew to ever do what we needed to do, I needed leverage. And that means a lot more people coming on board. My father ultimately was the superintendent of schools, so I had to be a pretty decent student, and I was a good student. I wasn't the top of my class. It was a tiny little class. I think I was second or third, but anyway, I was a good student in grade school, in high school. When I went off to college, I played a little too hard and wasn't quite the student I had been in my earlier years, but I came around before it ended and finished all that. But I was a pretty good student. I actually went to college to become an engineer because I thought, well, I was pretty decent in math in high school, and I thought, well, it's the 60s. Everybody's going to be an engineer. So this friend of mine, we went off to college to be engineers, and we didn't even know what kind. I remember we sat in the room, and he said, what do we want, what kind of engineers we want to be? And I told him, I guess this was part of my beginnings. I said, well, I read that the chemical engineers make the most money, so we're going to become chemical engineers. 4 years later, he's a chemical engineer working for DuPont or somebody, and I'm getting an accounting degree. But I realized after a while, I didn't want to do what I thought those engineers really did, and I thought I better get into business school. That's where I need to probably be. I did. I moved into the business school, started taking some classes, and then I realized all the accountants get jobs. And the guys with marketing and business degrees, this is 1960, this is 1970, 71, 72. They're having a tough time getting jobs. I'll get an accounting degree. It's not that hard. They said that accounting degree is hard. I said, no. I was taking some of those chemistry courses and 4 semesters of calculus. That's hard. This stuff is not that hard. So I get an accounting degree. Really, most of it the last 3 semesters of college. And I thought, I'll get a job because I've got this degree, and I'll go work for some firm for 2 or 3 years, and I'll figure out what I'm going to do when I grow up. And so I took a job with a smaller firm that had a couple of my friends had gone there, and they said, they got small clients. If you work for them, you get to see the client from beginning to end. You're not just working on, accounts receivable for some major public company. You get to see the whole. And I liked that. And I got to sit in there, and those people were running those little businesses. And so, I thought, God, this is the way it works. They've got to sell it, they got to bill it, they got to collect it. So that's how I moved into that role with an accounting firm. And as I said, I thought 2 or 3 years I'll be gone and doing something else. But I kept thriving on what I was learning from the clients. And then I realized after a couple of years, I think I know how this accounting business works. Not the work of the accounting firm, but the work of the business of an accounting firm. Bring in clients, do good work, bill clients, collect, service, create relationships. And I thought I kind of had learned how to do that. I went to work for another firm, and they had more confidence in me than they should have, but they had confidence in me to let me run, and I ran. I broke off when I was 29 or 30. That's when, it was time at that point for me to form a firm. I'd worked for 2 firms, and I'd learned a lot from both of them. When I got with the first firm I was with, I mentioned that I learned the value of real goal setting, not just, I want to be a professional football player. No, I learned real goal setting, and I wrote those things down, and I followed up on them. I learned that, I guess as I moved forward, I learned that you have to continue to move forward. In the second firm I was with, I felt as though it was a good firm, but they didn't have the leadership to move into the future. I was critical at some points, and here I was. I'm 25 years old, and the managing partner was 25 years my senior. And I remember sitting with him at one point, and I talked about growth of the firm, and I said to him, and I'm the youngest guy in the room, and he's the oldest guy, but I said, let me tell you, we talked about where we wanted to go, and I said, let me tell you, I will always want more. That's the way I am. I will want more. And I didn't mean money. I meant growth and value and money in the future. But I said, and you'll always want to hold on to more. And I said, Bill, that's not a problem. That's not bad. That's the way it is. You should want to hold on to more, and I should want to get more. And that's a conflict that's healthy. It's not unhealthy. And I'm not sure he completely understood that, but I think I did. Because I expected him to try to hold on, and I wasn't trying to take it from him. I was trying to build it out of what we had. And I wanted us to move forth on some technology stuff, and he was a little hesitant to that. I wanted us to do things. I guess I was ADHD or something. I don't know. I wasn't patient in sitting still. I learned that in that firm. So when we finally started, it's 1980. And we went to a retreat, and I took Al Carpenter and I took our 3 now then very young partners to a retreat at French Lick. And I told them at that point, I'm managing part of the firm, and I said, we got, I can't remember what we had. We probably had $1 million worth of business in total. And I told them, I said, guys, we only have about this much business. And if we don't get 3 times our size in the next 3 years, we might as well fold the tent and sell it off to one of these other big firms. We've got to push growth, and we've got to make it happen. And they came back, and we hired a consultant, and I remember the consultant told me, they went to him and said, how do we do that? Mountjoy tells us we've got to double the size of the firm. And I said, we have to work hard. So I learned that, and what I really learned was when I laid that out and asked them to do that, we did. And we accomplished that. And that's when I knew, we can drive this thing. We can take it to higher levels. And we just have to lay it out and push it, and all be willing to toe the rope in the same direction, and it works. And it did. And obviously one of the things was have the highest quality of service that anybody else would have, so we could be competitive, and have the best people that we could have, and to try hard to bring in the best. And my feeling was always, I was never one of those to bring in people that were less than me. I wanted people that were smarter than me who could take us to the next level. And we brought in some bright people, and they built this firm. And I said in our little discussion when I made the comment about, they allowed me to be the leader, but they carried the water. Back to my father and the coach, I was the quarterback. I called the play, but the other guys ran the ball. And it was the same way. It was exactly the same way in the firm. I could call the play, and they let me do that. And they ran the ball. I felt like to really be successful, it was a creation of a relationship with clients that made the difference. And I mean by that, I've always said that, my role in life was to help those clients succeed. And I mean by that, to advise them in a way that I could help them succeed. I needed to think the way they thought. I needed to understand the business they were in, not just the tax and audit part of that business, but I needed to try to understand their business so that I could be a better advisor to them and have a relationship with them that wasn't just I'll do something for you, you write me a check. And I had wonderful relationships with many clients. I've told them before, I loved clients who like to hunt and fish and fly airplanes and play golf, and all the things that I love to do was a way for me to build those relationships with those clients to better understand how they thought, what their philosophies were about their business, what their goals were for their business, and I just thought that made me a better advisor. And that's what I tried to build the firm on, to try to give that kind of advice to clients, not just your out of the book audit and tax service. That's important, but having a deeper relationship I felt like was most important. I never thought I made it. I was always paranoid that somebody was right behind me, and I had to keep running faster. So, and that kept driving me. It drives me today. Even in my advanced age, I'm trying to lower my handicap a little bit by trying to work on my golf game. But anyway, my greatest professional success clearly is the building of this firm, the taking it from where it was in the beginning, which is almost nothing, to the largest firm based in Kentucky, able to service these clients, and a top 100 firm. And when I made that goal of a top 100 firm, that's a clear line in the sand. You either are or you're not. So that would be my largest professional success. But at my funeral, I hope somebody just says he was fair. He was a good guy. He was fair to all of us, and he was never greedy in how he operated that business. That he shared the wealth with all the others who carried the water. That's what I hope they'd say about my professional activities with this firm. And then I hope my kids and my grandkids would say, he was a decent dad. I could have been better because I sure took a lot of time away from them because of this firm. And I've got so many grandkids, 13 of them, I can never give them enough time, but I'm trying. At the end of the day, you don't get valued on how many chargeable hours you have. You get valued on what your family thinks about you. And I wish I could have given them more. And if I had an extra hour, that's what I'd do. Is there a deeper purpose from what I have done to what I do today and what I want to do? Yeah, there clearly is. And I felt like this from the beginning, back to all my discussions about these clients I've dealt with and that I've worked with and seeing their success. Why do I want them to succeed? I want them to succeed because I want the place we live to be better when we're gone than it is when we're here. And my efforts right now, and my efforts right now in terms of what's going on in the state of Kentucky, I chair the Fiscal Issues Task Force for our little impetus group that David Jones Sr. set up a few years ago. And I said to that group, I said, well, what we need, fiscal issues are not a Louisville issue. That's a statewide issue. We need to have a balance. We need to have a structural balance in this state to make everyone in this state have a higher per capita income. Not the rich get richer, but to have everyone have a higher per capita income. And I'm pushing that hard. I'm pushing that hard through our tax structure. I'm not worried about tax. They say, well, it's tax reform. No, I'm worried about growth reform. I want the state of Kentucky to grow, because if we can create an environment that makes the state of Kentucky grow in population, we will grow in economic activity. And if we grow in economic activity, we will grow in per capita income, and that'll benefit everyone in the state. Well, entrepreneurship is critical to my feeling right now of how we grow the state of Kentucky, because we need the homegrown businesses here to spring up, to flourish, to grow. And by bringing population growth in, we give them a better workforce, a bigger workforce. So that's critical. The economic activity the entrepreneurial activity is critical to the economic activity. So the more of that there is, the more our per capita income will rise for all of our citizens in the whole state. So that's a huge part of it.